it. Okay, so my capstone project I titled Stage 2 of Business Development, although after the past few months, I think it should just be overcoming new problems with creating a business. A little bit about me and my business. Okay. So my business is a noble calling. I trademarked the name, I think like a summer ago now. It's all about, it was inspired when I had my son. So he's 3 now. So 3 years ago, I had my son. I really like clothes. I like to try and look nice. And I went on a hunt for nursing friendly, breastfeeding friendly dresses that would, or what clothing that would work. And realized very quickly that there really wasn't anything that was available. Like the quality wasn't great, or they charged this astronomical price for something that you get a couple washes out of and it looks like a cat got to it or something, like it's just falling apart. I was really upset. And so I would spend, I didn't have anything else to do with my newborn, so I would put him in his stroller and we would just walk up and down malls hoping that clothes would appear and that would work for breastfeeding, and they didn't. So because I am a perfectionist, I decided that the only way to fix the problem is probably just to fix it myself. So that was the beginning. And then I ended up going back to school, enrolling in RIT. I got pressured into doing Tiger Tank. And I was like, I don't have an idea. So everybody thought it was a great idea in the Simone Center for me to do it. And I was like, I don't have an idea. They're like, you definitely do. And so I said, well, actually, like I do want to start this clothing company for breastfeeding friendly dresses. And they're like, there you go. That's perfect. And that was kind of the catalyst. And been working on it ever since. And as I've developed it and done customer discovery and talked to people and done research and like really taken a dive into the industry too, I've realized that it's not so much about the dresses, but it's about the women who are going to be wearing the dresses. And that's what keeps me going every day with all the problems that keep arising. And we have just the clothing industry in general, we're sold garbage clothes, and with the message though that these companies care about us, and they don't if they're not going to sell us quality. So I want to be a company that doesn't just say I believe that women have worth. I'm creating products that prove that I believe it, and as my team grows, like we believe it too. So that's a noble calling. And then each following slide is just one of the objectives I had during my capstone, or for my capstone. Oh, there you go. So I don't know if this will move. Okay, this is screen recording of my website updated. My first objective was to update my website and add CEO to it, which I hadn't done. I was super lazy when I got it going at first. So I put new photos, all within each page. There's hidden keywords that will help me rank higher in Google now. My photos originally were kind of dingy, so I updated those, added some new product photos too with them. Like I added my Instagram at the bottom. So I probably don't have time. I learned so much about SEO when I was researching it and talking to people about it. There's just so many ways to make your site rank higher. And so I've tried to do as much as possible with like the little bit that I have on my website. Once I like add dresses and other things, it'll be so much easier to do that because that's my main product. But for right now, I'm very happy with what I have, but also very aware that I can keep adding more. And then this was another objective of mine, was to finalize my trademark. So when you apply for a trademark, if you're doing goods that you're selling, so it's not a service, you have to show like proof of intention, which is what I originally did, or like proof that you're actually selling something. And so I like said I have the intention to sell dresses and tops and clothing, and figured that, and this is like a year and a half ago now, figured that everything would move a lot quicker than it did, and it did not. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to do this mini project where I'll make a sweatshirt, and then I can put my tag on it. I can show that I'm ready to sell it. I can sell it. So I did all the behind work. I designed a sweatshirt. Oh, and I can submit it to the trademark office and say, look, I'm actually using my trademark, which is a noble calling. So I designed a sweatshirt. We found sweatshirts I liked. I found a local business to work with. And we've just had problem after problem. So I want to do made in America. I want everything to be organic, either cotton or an organic material, because if moms are wearing this, if we're having babies up against us, like we don't need synthetic chemical filled fabric. So I decided I was going to do a sweatshirt with, I designed this little Roar Mama Roar, and I was going to have it up around the collar of the sweatshirt. So I thought, like, it's tasteful. It doesn't have something plastered, but every time you look in the mirror, it's this nice little reminder to the women wearing them. We finally find sweatshirts. It took weeks for the guy I'm working with to get them in. We finally get them in. And then they've been spending the last 2 weeks trying to get this to work. And I just got a call yesterday saying that they can't get it to work. So now we're back to the drawing board. They're going to screen print one, and we'll see how that looks. But I really wanted it to be embroidered. It just felt a little like higher level of a design. So we'll see. All right. Yeah, I don't know what we'll do. What the problem is, so my guy, he does embroidery, but he was like, well, maybe I can find, he has a friend who's been doing embroidery for even longer. And so he was like, well, I'm willing to like give this job to this other guy if it means we can get this to work. And this guy who's been doing embroidery for 40 years is like, this won't work because of the way the machines are set up. So if I were to want to do this, I would have to have like the sweatshirt pre-cut out, and it would be embroidered just on like the front piece of the clothing, and then the sweatshirt would be sewn together. So that's the reason behind it not working. So we'll see. But everything else is ready to go. So I designed hang tags, which is part of finalizing the trademark and just using in retail and sale. They're just a simple white hang tag that says a noble calling. And then I found packaging that I would send these in. It's all eco-friendly, like everything can be stuck in recycling, or like I have little pins to connect the tags with. So like that could be, I mean, technically it could be reused. So I'm really excited about all of that. Now we're just waiting for the sweatshirts so we can send them. And then, oh, and I guess the end of that was because I didn't finalize my trademark. And so they give you 6 months. So I just extended again. So hopefully within the next window, it will be done. My next objective that I explored was exploring moving to Utah as a next step. So Utah County, which is a county inside of the state of Utah, has a really, really unique demographic. My husband went to school out there, so I've lived it. And it happens to be my target market. So there's tons and tons of young college students, and it's, I want to say it's like 55% of Utah, they're members of Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which I'm also a member. And culturally, like, we have a lot of babies. It's just something we do. And we have kids young, usually. I'm not as young, but everyone else does. So we have all of these colleges in Utah County. They all have like 25 to 30,000 students. BYU, for an example, like they've got 25,000 students, 25% are married. So that's like around 6,200, and at least half, more than half, they skew higher, like with women, girl enrollment. So there's my like target market potentially, and then multiply that by, there's at least 10 schools that have that same demographic. They do shift a little bit, But, and then just the people who live there, and communities are super tight knit. In Utah County, everyone kind of lives on top of each other. We lived in a like a townhome while we were there, and just all of our neighbors had kids. Like everyone's in the same stage of life. It's fun. It's really cool, but I've never lived anywhere else where I've experienced that. So that is why, the major reason why I thought like, oh, moving to Utah would be a really great idea. I could just work really, really hard and with promoting my business, because my target audience is right there. And I did all the research on the numbers, so they check out too, but I won't bore you with that. And then some other positives of Utah that are kind of unique to there. They have tons and tons and tons of manufacturers there. And something that's really important for my company is to be able to manufacture in the US as well. So I want to source all my fabrics from here, but I also want to be able to manufacture here. There's, I guess, with the being a perfectionist, I'm also a control freak. So I have so much more control over manufacturing if it's here. Like I could pop in potentially whenever I wanted to make sure that like my standards of how people are being treated at I mean, it's completely different feel there too. So it wouldn't even be an issue. But going overseas, a plant can tell you like, oh yeah, we take care of our people, or oh yeah, we follow all these safety rules, or there's just so many things that they could be less than honest about, and I have no way of knowing. And even as I've done research in just manufacturing in general, there are even some manufacturers overseas who have kind of like dummy facilities set up. So that's where they bring their customers to see like, yeah, this does check out. This is really great. We treat everyone okay. But then, a couple miles away or a couple cities away, they have their real plants and they don't treat people well. And if I'm a company all about women and their worth and supporting them, that makes no sense to be supporting companies who are mistreating women, and it's slave labor to make clothing. So that's like really important to me. Utah has some really great facilities. I'm probably going to go out in September to check them out. So that's exciting. And then
Kirstin, you have 1 more minute.
Oh no. Okay. I thought I was not going to make it. We'd be too short in time. Okay. So, and then they have trade shows. So Pinners Conference, I found like a Prego Expo, which is huge. So my target audience is coming to me because they want to shop. And so I would hit up all of these trade shows while we were there for a year and just grind really hard. And I did research on pros and cons of operating a physical store. What I ended up coming to, my conclusion is I don't want to do it. The cons are not that great. And if I'm doing trade shows, then I kind of get the pros of having a physical store without the overhead costs, without having to really worry about theft. I don't have to worry about staffing problems. And then just the unknown, like COVID is an example of all these brick and mortar stores we had no idea that was coming, and now they're all closed because they couldn't support themselves. And then I did crowdfunding research. So Kickstarter, I interviewed somebody who did one successfully, and it was for music, and they raised over $15,000. My goal is probably to raise around $20,000, and I would treat it a little bit differently. So I have no idea what to do for pre-orders, and so this would give me an idea of what I need to order. And then production, a lot of times with Kickstarters, people aren't even in the production phase yet for their product, but I would have all my ducks in a row and we would be ready before the campaign. So the minute campaign's done, I can start manufacturing and shipping, because my target audience, they have a really small window where they even need my product. So if I didn't get it out for a year after the campaign, they no longer need it. That just kills customer relations. They're never going to come back to me. So that's kind of what I looked into with that. And then product development. So I continued working on my dresses. I had new tops. The pattern maker that I work with, we just keep having issues. So when school's done, I said, you know what, like, let's put a pause on this. And when school's done, I'm going to drive out to Ohio and we're going to meet and talk about it in person. And I'm hoping that'll go better. And then I developed some new stickers too, which is the little thing I do on the side. So one says roar mama, and then another with a reminder like, hey, you've got this. And then I think that's it. So any questions?
Meg, do you want to go first?
Sure. I'm going to limit it to one question only because, I've had not everyone probably realizes, but I've had the privilege of working with Kirstin over the last couple of years, and I've really seen the progress that she's been working on. So I've got a lot of insider knowledge, but I will ask Kirstin, since I know the website development has been new. How did you, I know that's not your background, so how did you work on that? And did you have to seek out a lot of that information? Did you enlist the help of someone? So talk a little bit about the website development.
So it's not my background at all. And I've realized I took a class a few semesters ago about building a website. And from that class, I realized I never want it to be something that I'm good at. It's just not my, area of genius, I guess you could call it. I did a lot of what do you call it? LinkedIn Learning. So they have this it's 13 hours worth of SEO training. So it's from different people and it walks you through different steps, different aspects. And so I did like 5 or 6 hours of it. And some of it just wasn't relevant for me. But I would like listen and I'd be like, okay, so I need to take this. And then I would move over to my website and apply it. And then I'd go back to listening and go back and forth. And even with having done that, like I was on there this morning tweaking things, because it's just, I think one of the biggest things I've learned is it's never done and you shouldn't treat it like it's done, because like Google's constantly changing and how they're going to rate your website and like reward you for doing SEO correctly. Changes, but trends change, what people are searching for changes. And then hopefully I'll have new product to put on too. So like my business is changing and I have to adjust that as well.
Nice job. So you'll keep us posted when that website is live and you're ready to go.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So Stephen, I'll open it up to you. And if anyone else has a question.
Okay, Kirstin. So I'm not entirely clear about the timing of all of this. And it wasn't clear to me, and I guess it's still not clear to me. Are you making the clothes, or are you telling some pre-existing manufacturer that you want them to make the clothes that you've designed to your specifications? I mean, how is that? What's your relationship? What's going to be your relationship with the manufacturer? And have you selected a manufacturer? More to the point, I guess.
Yeah, sorry, I know all the answers to that, but I didn't share that. So I've been designing my own pieces, and I don't have, I have this is the original that I sent. It's handy. So it's changed since this too. So I found fabric that I liked. It's a 2-piece, they pulled it apart. A dress. So here's the bottom half. It has a crisscross tank, and so it's like easy access for breastfeeding. And then, that isn't the top. There would be different tops. So it's designed to be kind of like a mix and match capsule style wardrobe. So you can get a bottom that fits your bottom and also get a top that might fit your top half better, because when you're breastfeeding, your boobs get really, really big. And so you don't always fit perfectly into like what might have been your traditional size, or what you need on top is different than the bottom. So it gives you more sizing options. And also eventually there'll be different styles of tops and bottoms. And so you can get a couple tops and one bottom, but you have enough outfits for a week. So it like limits just having to buy tons of stuff. That doesn't really work.
So you're doing the design.
Yeah, so it's
Right.
Mostly design. It's designed. And then I'm working with a pattern making company in Ohio, and they're making it an industry standard. So I can send it and say, okay, this is speaking your language to the manufacturer, and they don't have to ask me any questions. They can just start producing.
And that part you've done already. You've already selected a manufacturer?
No, so I have pattern maker. I can't select a manufacturer until all of my patterns are finalized, because so there's this they make a pattern, but they also make a tech pack, and a tech pack is full of all the technical terms they can put into a computer, and then the computer will spit out the patterns for them and will tell them, this is how you need to hem something, this is how you need to finish this part, you need this, finishing around the neckline. And we're still working on getting that just right with pattern makers. So until I have that, I can't finalize a manufacturer, because they have to be able to look at my tech pack and say, oh yeah, we can do all of that, or nope, sorry, we can't, or we don't want to. Keep looking.
Okay, so I get that part now. And you said that before you do the crowdfunding, you want to have the stock already to hand. Is that what you said?
So I'll have everything set up. I'll have my manufacturer picked out. We'll have fabric there waiting to, so I found fabric I want. The bolts of fabric will be waiting with the manufacturer. And as soon as the Kickstarter's done, or even probably towards the end, I'd say, okay, these are the sizes I need. This is what we're going to do. Start manufacturing. And so.
Okay, so it's like just in time manufacturing. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
It'll probably be a little more expensive than what industry usually does, but yes, that is the.
So when do you think, so there are a few steps that you need to go through before you're actually ready. So what's your timeline going forward? I mean, when do you think you're going to be actually operating and making money?
My goal, so this keeps changing. I thought this process, so when I originally started, I was like, oh, I'll have this up and going in 6 months. It'll be great. We're like almost 2 years from that point now. So I'm hoping, now that I'm graduating in the spring, so I'm hoping I'll be able to dedicate so much more time to this. I don't have to worry about school. So I'm hoping in May is when I can go out to the pattern makers and do hands-on, this is what I want. By the end of the summer, we'll have patterns that are correct. In September, I have like lists of manufacturers. So I'll send out like a preliminary, hey, can you do this? This is what I'm looking for. I'll visit them in September. And in between just having a full production run, you get sample sizes. So I'm going to get a couple sample runs. I would like to test those a little bit more, because they'll be the official thing. This is what is being produced. And then the fall, so it depends on timing. I'd like to do my Kickstarter so that delivery, so by the time it's run and done, deliveries would happen around a holiday. So this could either be like, hey, this would be a great Christmas present for someone. Mother's Day would be a really good one too. Mother's Day just feels, next year just feels so far away. So I don't know if we'll do it, but within the next year, it should be out and I should actually be running. I would hope.
All right. So we will be crossing our fingers on your behalf. So for the symposium, are you going to have you got the towel? Are you going to have a show too to make it a complete demonstration?
I was thinking about I have a mannequin and I could throw a dress on. I think that would be really fun.
I think that would be great. Yeah, that would be really great. Okay, thank you very much. I really enjoyed that. Does anybody else have any questions? Not seeing any. Let's go to Lauren. Meg, can you do something with the share?
She doesn't need me to. She's just still figuring it out.
Okay. You're also muted.
Audio is also, no, she's actually not muted. Her audio isn't working. Lauren, you're not muted, but we can't hear your audio. No problem. What you might do is leave the meeting and then pop right back in, because you did have audio when you first came. Lauren, do you want to try unmuting yourself? No, we still can't hear you. Do you want to just leave the meeting and then come right back?
Maybe
Wait,
we
can you hear me now?
Yes, now we
Yes.
can hear you.
Okay, cool. Let's try that. Can you help me share my
There
screen?
you are. Okay.
Sorry, as I said, I'm using my friend's laptop because my computer died last week.
No.
It does. I am sorry.
That's
I
okay.
swear that I tested this.
It happens. And are you using the share screen button down at the bottom?
Yeah, I'm trying to currently. I am sorry again.
It's okay.
Don't worry.
I think it's happened to everyone now that we do Zoom.
Maybe. Maybe. System preferences, fun, good. We're getting there. If you want me to go last, I can try that too. I think I'm getting it.
That's okay. Why don't you stick with it just for another second?
Okay. Okay. It says that it won't be able to record my screen until I leave and come back. So I'm gonna leave and come back.
Okay, that's good. Meg, should we go with Carter?
Well, she's going to pop right in then and start sharing her screen. So let's just give her another minute.
All right, one more minute.
Hello, I'm back. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I can't hear anything, so that's fun. Let me see. I'm
Can you
so
hear it?
sorry. All the technical. Okay, I can hear you guys. Good. Okay, everything's good. Let me share my screen, which is this guy. Share.
Yes.
We can see my screen. Everything is good. Okay. I just had a little freak out, but everything's good.
Everything is fine.
Cool. As long as I stop right clicking, we will get there. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Good. Okay. So hello. My name is Lauren Paige. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm currently a game design and production major in SOIS. I used to be game design and development major within Golisano, which will make more sense of why I'm saying that later. Long story short, I switched majors because I liked leading teams a lot more than coding for hours on end. And there were a lot of things that were missing within the GDD major for me to want to continue in it for another 2 years. So my capstone project is what a game dev looks like, diversity and inclusion in the game industry. I want to explain this title before I really start my presentation. So what a game dev looks like was a hashtag on Twitter that circulated at GDC, which is the Game Developers Conference, which is like the biggest conference in the gaming industry. A couple of years ago, after a Black female identifying presenter was stopped at security and questioned on if she was actually a presenter there. And from her perspective, that was because of what she looked like. She then posted a picture of herself with that specific hashtag, and she started a trend in the industry for more diverse voices to show who they are and what they do. This recently resurfaced at GDC this year with cis white men doing it, where they very much missed the point. So that is where my title comes from. As someone who identifies as a female in the industry, who has been thought of as lesser for my gender here, specifically at RIT, I felt like this was the perfect title for my project. And I'm also going to say, because of like the realness of my project, if there's like uncomfy stuff, my project is resonating, which I think is a good thing. So let's get started. Cool. So put simply, my project revolves around connecting with, listening to, and understanding diverse voices within the industry, and using their experiences and thoughts to tell my larger, now more diverse perspective to the people of RIT about the current state of diversity and inclusion in the games industry and what we can do to fix it. There are two main portions of my project, being interviewing people and creating an interactive experience. For classification purposes, I interviewed anyone that identified as underrepresented or marginalized within the game industry. So this spanned from the gender spectrum, being female, female identifying, genderqueer, non-binary, to sexual orientation, so LGBTQ+ community, to race and ethnicities, being a person of color, to kind of everything in between. So ADHD, ADD, being on the autism spectrum, being an immigrant, a first-generation student, even a mom. My original idea was to create experience in Unreal Engine 4, which is a very popular game engine, and have people play and walk through vignettes about each person's story or experiences, as told through voiceovers and relevant kind of objects to explain it. I'll touch upon why that changed a little later, but instead of that, I will be having a presentation in the Magic Theater at Imagine RIT about my project, and hopefully have it still be interactive and engaging for everyone. So why did I choose this? Well, there are a lot of reasons I chose this project over just making a game, which was kind of my immediate thought, game design. So the main reason is because I myself have a diverse perspective, and I've struggled a lot here at RIT with being a female in the game industry. In most of my GDD courses, I was one of 2 female identifying students out of 30. In my freshman year, don't quote me on this, I think there were around 300 people accepted in my class, and only 20 to 30 were women. In one of my first group projects in the major, I was labeled as the diversity pick. And that was joked about often in my group until one of my friends said, hey, that probably makes her uncomfortable, which shockingly it did, crazy. I said my ideas to people. I was often told that they wouldn't work. And then someone would say the same thing 5 or 10 minutes later, and it was accepted. People didn't respect my position on the team as the team lead and wouldn't communicate with me, but would communicate with other male members. So within the GDD program, there's not a lot about diversity and inclusion ever spoken about. It's not spoken about in freshman level classes, not in the co-op preparation, literally nothing, but you certainly do see it. So this isn't an issue just with the GDD program. However, it spans across a lot of industries, I'm sure. So I wanted to bring more awareness and light to the situation in hopes that maybe I can't change the entire industry, but maybe I can make other students, faculty, and just people unaware of how the game industry is, more aware of the issue in general. So these are some of my goals for the project. Some of these I already touched on, or you could kind of assume by what I've already spoken about, but I want to start with my original numbers goal, which was interview 10 people for my project and connect with around 20 to 25 people. I have interviewed 22 people. I've connected with about 30 and reached out to about 40. I basically doubled my original goal numbers, which I would say is a feat in itself. I wanted to do a project that really challenged me and sharpened my skills. And with this, I can definitely say my interviewing, my scheduling, organization, data analysis skills have all gotten much stronger. By doing this presentation and the one at Imagine RIT, I'm also improving my presentation and public speaking abilities. Considering the one at Imagine may draw about 50 to 100 people, I also intend to live stream it as well. So a lot of people, and hopefully bolstering a lot of my skills. Another particularly big goal of mine was to get people to ask for my resume, be willing to give feedback on my resume, and to possibly want me to work for their company because I'm graduating and I need a job. So I got all 3 of these, some of them even right off the bat. So I believe I got about 4 people to review my resume and give me feedback, about 3 to just ask for my resume to give out, two right off the bat from literally my initial reach out email, and two to ask me about my plans for graduation or to tell me to send my resume their way once I get a little closer to graduation. So that is something I'm incredibly proud about. And I hope that when I reconnect about my projects and with a lot of the people that I originally talked to, I will get more people interested in my start in the industry. Also, I want to get connected with people at my favorite companies. So this kind of last bullet is a goal that I didn't really think about until my mentor mentioned it. And that who did I want to end up connecting with after I've networked with everyone? So my favorite company in the games industry is literally called That Game Company, or TGC for short, which I'll say later on. I literally have a tattoo of the main character. And through my mentor's help and a few emails, I ended up interviewing two people there, one being the co-founder of the entire company and one being an executive producer, which is the ultimate role that I want in the industry. Again, this is another incredible feat. And I think without this project, I didn't think it would be possible to do at this stage. So most of the goals I originally set out to accomplish, I very much did, which again, I'm really proud of. So this was my timeline for my project. I'm going to assume that everyone had kind of a similar January, so I'm going to skip over that mostly. I got a mentor who I'll talk about in my next slide. I created a master questions list. I made an introduction write-up to send to people. So February is when I conducted all my interviews, and I will admit I started out pretty heavy. My mentor started sending me contacts around, I think it was January 26th, and by February 2nd, I had a meeting scheduled every day until the 12th. So in my second interview, which was with Luna Meyer, who went to RIT and was in the GDD program, they said that my capstone project was already getting spread around the industry. So within 9 days, my project was gaining traction. So that's really cool. The next day, someone emailed me with the subject, That Game Company, to which I promptly freaked out reading, just looking at it. And a man named David asked if I'd be interested in meeting with Kelly Santiago, who is the co-founder of TGC. And I just about died. In February, I quit basically my full-time job, which is unrelated to this capstone, so don't worry about that. But without doing that, I'm not sure if I would have done as many interviews, because on some days I would have all my classes, do 3 interviews in a row, go to rehearsal, and go to bed. Although I'm really proud of how many interviews I did and how many people I ended up connecting with, every time I interviewed someone over that original 10, the more I realized that my original interactive experience wasn't a viable plan, and the more stress and pressure that I faced with the project. So March was my burnout month. I finished my last interviews in the first couple of days of March, and then we had break, which I really thought I was going to do work in, but I didn't, like most college students. And for the other 2 weeks, I was struggling really hard. I was so burnt out from all the interviews and other personal issues that happened in February that I had to put aside to do the interviews that I wanted a break, but I couldn't afford to take one. So every day I didn't start analyzing my data and making progress, I felt ashamed and didn't want to work. So I kind of created this vicious cycle for myself on something I was originally so passionate and so proud of, and just something that I couldn't even look at anymore. So at the end of March, I talked with my mentor about different plans, what I could do now that so many people within the game industry were waiting on what I was going to produce from their interview. And I also didn't have the technological capabilities to run Unreal Engine, which was going to support my interactive experience. So I really had to turn my plan around. I thought about doing a presentation about my work and started getting really excited again, which leads into April. So I have my presentation scheduled. This is a really good prep presentation for that. And I'm making strides on everything despite my computer dying and most of my work of this project being erased from existence in the woes and stress of graduating. So
Lauren, you have
stuff.
1 minute.
I have 1 minute. Oh my gosh. Oh no, I have so many things. Okay. So this is my mentor, Sam Camerata. Sam actually graduated from RIT in 2020 in SOIS with similar concentrations. So they were super ecstatic about mentoring me. And I kind of partly owe being in SOIS, doing this project, and my eventual career to them. So I'm very thankful for Sam. I went too far. So this was my kind of network. It started off with 6 people and ended with 41 people. And and I didn't do a co-op or anything. So really just the original connections I had was from being at RIT. And now I have connections with heads of companies and creators of companies and really powerful people in the industry. So that's really cool. Let me see. Yes. Okay. So I'll try to condense this, but I want to start talking about my data with this unbelievable fact, which is 2% of Black professionals. There's only 2% of Black professionals in the game industry, with Black people making up 13% of the US population. And so that is a very astounding statistic. Literally only 24% of women in the game. There's only 24% of women in the game industry, 4% being non-binary or non-gender identifying. And that was in 2019. So things are getting a little better. But as I said, I had about 45 pages of interviews. So there's a lot of data to go through. There's a lot of positive and negative experiences that a lot of people talk to me about, including, you know, harassment, microaggressions, power control situations, a lot of different things like that. So there's a lot of data that I collected that I was really just shocked about. And if you come to my presentation at Imagine RIT, I will talk about that a lot more. So as I said, my presentation is Imagine RIT, 4/23, 6:30 p.m. at the Magic Theater. I will be sending out my poster to Soyce, GDD program. Who knows if I'll actually send it out because I don't really have the best things to say about it. Send it to Magic. And I also hope to live stream it and record it. And maybe these are some of my takeaways. So the biggest one that I probably took away with that or from this is that a simple message, an email, or just reaching out to people in general can get you really far. I never would have expected I could talk to 2 people at my dream company just by reaching out to my own network, because you never know who others might know. And wherever I end up, I know that I want to focus on diversity in the industry, and it should be a cause that we all kind of go towards. So sorry for going over, but thank you for listening. And if you guys have questions, let me know.
So, Lauren, it sounds like you had an incredibly successful experience, even if we leave aside March, and it sounds like March wasn't so successful, but
yeah,
sometimes you need to take a break. So that was probably a wise decision on your part. So you're giving a presentation for Imagine RIT on the 23rd, and then the symposium on the 25th, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So please make sure that I would like you to send a reminder that about the venue on the 23rd, because I would like to attend that. So let me see. I'm going to think about questions. So Meg, do you have any questions prepared?
I do. So I really enjoyed that, Lauren. Lots of good information. It seems like it would be a really relevant and important maybe presentation to review with the folks at GDD. So is this something approach? Have you had conversations with them? Because I feel like this would be important feedback for them, and maybe also giving them an opportunity to share some information or some of their perspective.
Yeah, so I've brought it up in a couple of different contexts, and I think that a lot of people that I even interviewed that went to RIT that were in the GDD program have brought it up before. The specific GDD program has not done anything about it. I TA for a professor who is in the GDD program, and I TA about like 6 different classes over this past year. And I've spoken about it with him multiple times, and it's known that it's a problem, and they're definitely trying to make strides towards it. But they're not making enough strides. I would still say that in the freshman classes that I TA, there's definitely more females and like female identifying people, but there's still a big lack of people of color. And a lot of that is that RIT is kind of a privileged university to go to, I would say. And I don't know. But because of that, I think that a lot of opportunities are missing for people of color to be able to get into the industry in general. So that kind of makes it hard to even get to RIT. So I would like to bring it up again, and like make it, what is it? Magic has like a speaker series, and I would like to do something there with it. But they kind of said like, this is kind of it with Imagine RIT, and they'll be putting my poster up basically everywhere. So it might not be the actual G2D program, but it'll still be like animation, other related industries. So
Hey, Lauren, if you peek inside the Soy's office on the wall on the left when you come in the front door, there's a poster for a film, She's Got Game. We hosted the filmmaker, I think it was probably 3 years ago now, Kalia Grimes, and I'd be happy to introduce her to you. I think the film is now up in public domain on Vimeo. But the event we held, we had close to 100 people attend. And there was real good conversation about the issues that that you're raising.
yeah, that would be incredible. I would super appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep. Have you had a chance to interview Michelle Harris in IGM?
No, I think someone said for me to reach out, and I honestly think that I forgot. I have talked to Jen Hinton, which is in sort of like the same office. So I've talked with her, but I have not talked with Michelle yet. But I know that she is like a powerful voice, and is trying to like bring more awareness to it at RIT, I believe.
Yep, absolutely. She's got those issues front and center, and I know that she's certainly probably the most prominent voice trying to drive conversation about it. And I think just hearing a little bit about her own experiences on the periphery of the industry, you know, she's been more in the art game space than in the commercial industry, but I think you'd enjoy talking to her.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Lauren, we really, I mean, it's already 2:50. So let me ask you one thing. You just touched on it. You've now been at RIT for 4 years, is that right? Okay.
Yep.
So I want, you know, whether you've noticed any change. I mean, is there any change? Is it minimal change? Is it change in the right direction at least?
Yeah. So yeah,
that.
there's definitely change in the right direction. And I didn't really get to talk about it, but the general perception of people in the industry is that it definitely needs work. It will take a lot of time to get to. I think that amount of time that it will take will be lessened if it becomes a bigger focus in the industry, but it is an industry. So there's a balance between how much you care about your people and how much you care about profits.
Right.
So because of that, I think it's very slow, but a lot of the proposed issues were like more diverse hiring efforts, which are happening, unionization, which is on the starts of happening, and then also just early education efforts. So there's definitely a lot more going into making the industry more diverse. I don't think that RIT is doing enough for it. But again, I think that comes to like income levels at some point and the amount of financial aid and just the opportunities given to the underrepresented communities in the first place. So I think there is change. It's not enough, but it is happening, which is better than it used to be, I guess.
Right. So time, you know, cultural change takes a lot of time at the best of times, but you know, if people are pushing for it like yourself, hopefully you can speed things up a little bit. And with that said, we're going to need to move on. So Carter, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Let me
Okay.
just
You're
get
up.
my screen here. Is that showing?
Yes.
Awesome. So, hi, my name is Carter Wu, and my capstone project was on do-it-yourself motion capture. So the goal of my project was to create a 3D animated short film using motion capture. And this process not only involved learning the basics of creating a short film, but also included creating a low-cost workflow for capturing, converting, and applying motion capture data to animations in a way that would be accessible for animators on any budget. So I thought that a good place to start would be going over what exactly motion capture is. So motion capture is the process of recording the motions of a physical performance, generally for animating a character in video games or film. And so this here is an example of motion capture from a video game. And so people have generally seen motion capture being done. You know, it's the sort of image with actors in these funny looking skin tight suits with those ping pong ball looking markers on them. But a lot of people don't know exactly why actors have to wear those suits and how motion capture is actually done. So how motion capture is done in industry is actors wearing those mocap suits are put into what's called a volume, which is basically this large, usually empty space surrounded by anywhere from 8 to hundreds of cameras, depending on the application. And so how it works is that if you tell a computer where each camera is in relation to all the others, the computer can actually take all of those simultaneous camera feeds and it can calculate the position of each of those markers on the mocap suits over time. And if you take those positions of those markers and assign them to a bone in a virtual skeleton, which is also called an armature or a rig, you can get something that looks like this. And that is what is used for animation. But the problem with this method is that it's not cheap and therefore it's not accessible to animators like me who don't have a large studio behind them or the budget to be buying lots of expensive equipment. So that's why for my capstone, I created a low-cost method to capture and apply motion capture data to animation using just one camera, which was my iPad, and only free software. So the first step for my project was obviously coming up with an idea for my short film. And so on the left, there's just a little blurb about what my idea was. And so then once I had that idea, I could go ahead and write the script. So the script I wrote using Fade-In, which is a professional screenwriting software. And in order to use the software, I had to learn the very basics of screenplays and what that format looked like. And so that there is just a page from my script. And so my final script ended up being 13 pages long. And so that meant that my final film came out to be 10 minutes long, which was double the length that I had initially wanted it to be. So it ended up being a lot more work. After I had finished the script, I then knew what locations I would need to model. So I began creating those virtual sets. So for this, how I did it was I found the majority of the 3D models I needed online, with all of them having Creative Commons licenses, and I imported them into Blender. And Blender is a free open source animation software that I used to do most of my project. And then any models that I couldn't find online, I modeled them myself. And so on this slide are just a few examples of those virtual sets. And so once I finished creating and lighting those, I moved on to character modeling. So here are all of the characters in my film, and all of the human characters I made with a software called Make Human, which was basically a glorified character creation software. It looks like what you'd use in a video game. But it basically lets you customize a base human character, changing their attributes using sliders. So it's super easy, and you can export that into different applications. And then all of the droid characters I found online, except for the one on the bottom right there, Krabby. She is the one that I modeled myself from scratch using Blender, just because I wanted to know how to go through that entire process myself. And so just to give you a better look at that model there, this is her wireframe. This is her mesh, which is basically just her filled in wireframe. Here is her rig, which is just like that virtual skeleton, which I'm going to be talking more about on the next slide. And then here is her finished 3D model. So I've mentioned rigs or virtual skeletons a few times, but I wanted to go over exactly what that means. So rigging is the process of attaching a hierarchical bone structure to a character in order to animate it. So here's Krabby's rig again. And if it sort of helps to kind of think about it like our skeleton. So this rig on Krabby is a fairly simple rig. You can see that each part of the body is attached to a bone, and there's not really any stretching or scaling of the mesh. So this works for droid characters since they're made of metal, But for human characters, it's different because if you think about the way that our bodies move when we move, our skin stretches. And so what you have to do is you have to apply this to actual rigs. And so you do this by not just assigning a whole body part to one bone. You assign different weights to different parts of that mesh. So let's say you have your jawbone. And so you would assign all of this area down near your jaw. The jawbone would have complete influence over that, but also to get that stretching motion, you would assign partial weight or partial influence of, let's say, some areas on the cheek, so that when you move the jaw, the parts of the cheek also move a bit as well. So once I finished rigging all of the characters, I then went and recorded all of the voice lines from the script using Adobe Audition. My sister and my parents were kind enough to lend me their voices for that. And once I had recorded all of those and compiled them and gotten the timing right, I moved on to the actual motion capture. So I'm going to go over the facial motion capture first and how I did that. So I used a free app called Blender Track, and it's just on your smartphone. So this app, it allows you to record your face, and it goes ahead and tracks a bunch of points on there. So you can see on the left there, there's a recording of me in the app, and then on the right is the result of what you get after it analyzes it. And then what I did is I imported that straight into Blender, and it brings all of those points in. But the problem is that you can't animate using just those points. You have to put it actually onto a face rig. And so next step was bringing in that face rig and attaching it to the points. And the way that it does that is it takes the ends of the bones and it attaches the ends to whichever point is closest. And that's how you get that animated face rig. The next step was just baking the action, which means that anytime a bone changes scale, position, or rotation, the computer makes what's called a keyframe, basically just saving that information. And then after that, you can push that down, which is the same as saving it, so that you can append it or link it to another file. So I linked it into one that had my characters in it. And so when you do that, you can see that that facial data is put onto the character. So that's facial motion capture. And then body motion capture is pretty similar, but I used a different software for it. I used Plask AI, which is a free server cloud-based service that allows you to upload videos, and it analyzes them using AI, and it extracts the body motion data from it. So step one was the same as facial motion capture, was just recording your performance. And then you go and you upload that video to Plask, and it analyzes it for you, and it gives you something like this. So that's what I got from that video. And then once you have that, you can import that into Blender. And so now you have an animated rig, and on the left there, I have my character rig. But the problem is that the animated rig, the bones in the animated rig have different names than my character rig. So what you have to do is something called retargeting, which means copying all of the animation from the Plask rig or the source armature to the character rig or the target armature. And so I used an add-on called Auto Rig Pro. This is technically not free, but it was only $40, and I had bought it years ago, so I already had it. And so basically what you do is you just choose your source armature and your target armature, the one you want to copy it to, and you build a bones list, which tells the computer which bones in the source armature are the same as the bones in the target armature. And then you press retarget, and it does the rest for you. So once you do that, this is the result that you'll get. And then when I did the same as the facial motion capture, created an action from it, pushed it down and saved it, I brought it into another file with my character in it, and that is the result that I got. So I did that for all of the different characters and for all of the facial and body motion capture that I needed. And so one thing that I haven't really touched on yet, and this is a general problem with motion capture, is that even though computers are fairly good usually at extracting motion data from physical performances. They're never perfect. And that quality generally goes down the less cameras that you have. And I only used one. So that means that the computer was making a lot of guesses. And when the computer guesses, it means it's not going to look quite right. So I'm not sure how well it's coming through on Zoom, but the model on the left was imported straight from Plask. And it's very shaky. And the hands aren't posed or animated, and it's tilted. So there's a lot wrong with that model, or that didn't translate quite right. But the one on the right is one that I went through and I manually cleaned that motion data, or made it look more like how I wanted it to look. And so I posed the hands, I smoothed out those motions so that she's not shaking as much, and then I fixed the rotation. So just to give you another view on what that looks like, here's some raw motion data versus cleaned motion data. So the raw motion data on top, these graphs are just showing the scale, position, and rotation of the different bones in those rigs over time. And so the raw motion data, you can see those lines are really shaky, and that part at the beginning there is pretty chaotic. So what I did is I went through and I smoothed all of those lines out, and then I deleted any keyframes that were very, very close in position or rotation to the ones next to it. And what that does is that allows you to get a much smoother animation. And then I also deleted that part at the beginning because it wasn't needed. And so that's what allows you to get a better looking animation from motion capture. And so I don't have time to show an actual scene from my film, but what I do have here is a GIF that just shows the what it looks like when I put it all together. So this is all the body motion capture and the facial motion capture, along with some hand animation for the droids. So my last step in my project was basically rendering all of the animations in Blender. So basically the computer goes through, and for each frame, it creates an image. And so then you take that image sequence of all the frames, put them back into Blender, and then it creates a video. I took all of those videos and I put them into Adobe Premiere Pro, and I edited them the way that I wanted them to be. And I synced it with the audio, the voice lines that I had, I added sound effects, and with that, I was done. So again, I don't have time to show the film since it's 10 minutes long, but on the screen I do have a QR code. So if you'd like to scan that and maybe watch it later, you can. I'm also going to have this QR code on my poster, and then I'm also going to have my film playing next to me at the symposium. So there's plenty of opportunities to see it. But yeah, that's all I have. So thank you.
So Carter, that was astounding. Did you do anything else this semester? Like sleep?
This did take up a lot of my time.
I mean, 10 minutes. I mean, what you showed there, I don't know how much work goes into just the very short clip that you showed us, but 10 minutes? My goodness.
Yeah, it did take a while.
That was astounding. Well, I'm blown away. And certainly I'm going to watch the whole thing. I guess I don't have any questions. One thing. So, and I think you made the point at the beginning that is it usually expensive to do this stuff, but you apparently, I guess you mentioned $40. So you're revolutionizing the industry here, motion capture. Is that what you're doing here?
So motion capture has been something that really hasn't been accessible for a very long time, but just recently, really, there's been a whole bunch of I'm not sure if it's a whole bunch of startups are being created, but I've noticed that there's Plask AI, like the one that I used, and then there's a bunch of different add-ons for Blender that are free, some are paid, but somehow there's a whole bunch of new ways for using just one or two cameras yourself and doing motion capture. But yeah, it's interesting how much technology is getting better, that we can now take something that was really only doable by big studios and do it yourself at home. Now, the difference is the quality, because I only used one camera and I had to go through and I had to clean a whole bunch of stuff, and that took a lot of time, and a lot of stuff didn't translate well or at all. So that's what you have to sacrifice, but it is doable at home now, which is very, very cool.
So just one last thing. This is a spoiler, but you don't have to tell me. You can tell me you got to watch the whole movie. But did the human get noticed by the admiral?
Yes, but not the way he was expecting.
All right. Okay.
I'll leave it at that.
Okay. I'll watch it. Meg?
So Carter, wow. I mean, that was really remarkable. I mean, you did script writing and modeling and rigging and all the components. I'm sure I haven't listed everything. What would you say was your favorite part in all the learning that you did? And I don't know, maybe the biggest takeaway.
I think, well, my favorite part was actually seeing, I think the first time that I went through Plask and I uploaded a video and I extracted it, and then I brought it into Blender and actually put it on a character, and I did a few test renders just to see what that looked like, and actually seeing that it had worked was really great. But I think the biggest takeaway that I had from this project was, I guess, that lots of people see making their own films as this big daunting task, and it is, but and I think especially with motion capture, since it's something that's usually only done by big studios, I think just that it will take a lot of work, but it is possible to do these things yourself. And it's just about finding ways kind of around it, or things that you can substitute. But yeah.
What I really want here is for Lauren to produce a Carter animation of Kirstin's designs. It'll go big. Carter, what's next for you?
In what way do you mean?
What when we have to surrender you and you have to leave, what do you want to do next in life?
Well, I guess in terms of things related to this, I have been using Blender for the past 5 years on and off. So I've been learning it for a while. And I definitely do, now that I know how to do this, I've been kind of intimidated by really creating something, because I've never actually made a whole film or video in Blender. I knew that if I had a project and a deadline and I had to get it done, I would finally be able to do it. So that's why I chose it. But now that I know how to do it, I definitely think I'm going to make more, which is exciting, because I never got myself to sit down and really learn it all. But now I know how to do it. So I have the resources to be able to.
And are you hoping to go off into the animation industry, or is this going to remain side project?
I really don't know. I'm kind of still figuring out what I want to do after college, which is not great since I'm graduating in, less than a month. But yeah, I think it's definitely an avenue that I'm looking into. Yeah.
There are a couple of SOIS alums that I've been thinking about that'd be really interested in this work. Bailey Gribben, Meg, would be worth connecting you. I mean, he's got real similar interests and has been kind of working in the digital marketing space and learning how to apply this kind of work in that territory.
Oh, okay.
And the other one, Jim, that you'd suggested, Layla Mamedova, is an associate game producer with GenVid and actually worked on the animation short Undone, which I'm not sure you're familiar with that, but
I think so.
I'll send you both of those names. They'd be good context for you, and I'd be happy to make an introduction.
And
Great,
for
thank you.
Lauren as well, Layla would be a great person to talk to. Lauren Layla was also another IGM refugee that came to Soy's and has worked her way back into the industry after also sort of starting in the kind of digital marketing space and then finding her way back to games.
That's great. Well, we've
Don't
kept,
drop my idea though, I swear. We've got a Lauren production of a Carter animation.
we
can
won't
do
make
it.
it a graduation requirement.
We will make it a
These
graduate.
poor people just need to get across the finish line here. All right, so we kept everyone a little bit over. Really remarkable presentations. I can't wait to see you all at the symposium and even further out into the future to see what you do. So we're really proud of your efforts, and we know that this is amidst a million other things that you're also balancing right now, work and family and all your other classes. So great job. We look forward to seeing you on the 25th, and good luck finishing everything up.
And good to see Joey here, and I hope Joey's getting lots of ideas.
No, I joined because I wanted to spectate, but I wasn't sure if I was supposed to be here because it only looked like faculty and presenters. So it's like, am I supposed to be
No,
here?
no.
You are welcome. Thanks for sitting in, Joey. That's fantastic. And thanks, David. And
I was only here for like 20 something minutes. I was busy up until now today.
that's all right. All right, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
We'll see you on the
Thank
25th.
you.
Great job,
Thank
everyone.
you so much. Have a good day.
And maybe even on the 23rd too. All right, thanks a lot. Those with